Hello and welcome back to Anime Only. My name is Brandon, and we're continuing our discussion with the anime adaptation of One Piece with episode 8. Let's get right into it. So, episode 8 starts out with Luffy and Buggy continuing their argument from the previous episode, except of course with Luffy not sitting on top of Buggy like he was at the end of the last one, before we launch into the flashback about how Buggy and Shanks knew each other. And before we get into that flashback, at the end of my last video, I may have suggested that this flashback that we're about to get into was going to last for a couple of episodes, and I was acting pretty dreary about it. Well, the truth is, it only lasts for, I don't know, about 4 minutes. So it's not as big a deal as I was making it out to be. And moving on, this flashback opens up with Buggy and Shanks, who look to be about the same age that Luffy is now. And they're arguing back and forth, grabbing each other by the collar and everything, about which pole is colder, the North or the South Pole, until their fight is interrupted by who I'm assuming is the captain or maybe the first mate. We never actually get a name for him, so I have no idea who it is. Afterwards, they find an enemy ship and attack it. During the raid on the enemy ship, Buggy finds a treasure map and keeps it hidden from the rest of his crew. Later that night, we see Buggy and Shanks kind of just chilling, shooting the shit, drinking, talking about the future, what they plan to do with their lives after they leave the ship that they're on now. And Buggy tells Shanks that he admires his fighting ability, but he's too soft-hearted, and if that wasn't the case, that he would make him a henchman on his ship. And Shanks he's like, nah, man, we're a little too different. Why don't we just go our own ways? And then he follows that up by telling Buggy that they found a devil fruit on that ship that they raided, and it's easily worth 100 million berries. So Buggy develops this plan. He somehow creates a replica of this fruit and eats the replica in front of the crew, and telling everybody that it didn't do anything and the fruit that they had must have been a fake. But little do they know, his real plan is to steal the actual fruit and sell it for the 100 million berries, get a ship and a crew together, and start hunting down this treasure that he found on this map. And while he's preparing to leave, he's sitting in a little dinghy boat, and Shanks walks up behind him, and this dumbass shoves the fruit in his mouth and swallows it. And he gets so mad at Shanks, and he grabs him up. Oh shit. He gets so mad at Shanks, and he stands up real fast, and he turns on him. And doing so, he drops the treasure map that he found during the raid. And not thinking about the devil fruit he just ate, he jumps into the water after it. But of course, he did just eat a devil fruit, so he starts to sink. And Shanks sees something's wrong, so he jumps in after him. And that's kind of the end of the flashback. If that's all that we get from this, Buggy is an even bigger idiot than I thought. The point of this is that because of Shanks, he had to wait 10 years in order to gain enough power and notoriety in order to even attempt looking for this treasure, when in fact it was his own stupidity. Hide it in your mouth, you don't have to swallow the damn thing. But so far, the enemies that Luffy has faced have ranged from completely idiotic to astoundingly moronic. There really hasn't been like a real challenge to him. He just faces these ridiculous people over and over again who do, I guess, get progressively stronger and perhaps progressively smarter. Although arguably, I would say Axion Morgan was actually smarter than Buggy is. He was just a little too full of himself. If he was a little less arrogant, he probably would climb the ranks a lot faster. Anyway, so Buggy, though, being the complete dome that he is, explains to Luffy why this is why he's so mad at Shanks, before splitting the top part of his body off, saying he's not going to let anybody get a hold of his treasure because he sees Nami, who is now carrying a big-ass bag of his treasure, and is trying to, cat off with it. So he chases her down with the top half of his body and his knives out, and Luffy turns over and sees that Buggy's legs are still there, and he walks over and kicks him right in the crotch. And he drops to the ground, like tears in his eyes, gasping for breath, while Luffy tries to tell Nami that she needs to just drop the bag of treasure and run away, or else Buggy's gonna come after her again. To which she responds with, like, I'm gonna leave my treasure and leave, with Buggy sitting right there saying, your treasure? That's my treasure. You're just trying to steal it from me. What kind of upbringing did you have? We get a pretty good scope of what Nami's morality level is here, because she starts talking about how she is a thief who only steals from pirates. And since the treasure that she stole was from a pirate, in her eyes, it's hers now. And, I gotta say that there is a bit of a loophole. If someone who was not a pirate were to run up on her right now and take that bag from her, by her own moral compass, she wouldn't be able to take it back. By her thoughts, that treasure would now be theirs, and because they're not a pirate, she would never be able to get it back. Broken morality aside, Buggy gets pissed and he breaks into like a whole bunch of different pieces and starts flying his body parts all over the place. But Luffy notices that his feet are still on the ground and slowly making their way towards Buggy. So he picks one of them up and starts torturing Buggy. He starts tickling him, pinching his skin, slamming his foot on the ground. All until Nami, of course, does the stupid thing and uses the bag of treasure as a weapon and swings it at Buggy. And Buggy catches it and tries to get it back from her. And using his other hand, he goes to, I guess using both his hands. How is he still holding the bag? Why is she still standing there? So he takes both of his hands off the bag that they're fighting over to stab at Nami. And she is still just standing there. And it gives Luffy enough time to close the distance and go for a good kick that seems to knock Buggy out. And as Luffy and Nami are sitting there congratulating each other on, a good fight, even though, of course, again, Nami didn't even do anything, Buggy stands up and tries to assemble all of his parts for a final attack, and Nami runs off. And this is actually pretty good, because we are led to believe that she runs away. But what she's actually doing is tying down the rest of Buggy's parts. So when Buggy actually does come together, he comes off as this little legs and his fucking head in the middle of it. It's like how I used to draw people in kindergarten. And seeing the opportunity, Luffy does his signature finisher and does his Gum Gum Bazooka to blow Buggy away. After the fight, Nami splits the treasure up into two separate bags. And looking at it, I don't think those two bags equal that one big ass bag that she had before. But she makes the decision to give Luffy the map to the Grand Line that they were both looking for. And now, excited after getting the map to the Grand Line, and he thinks a navigator, Luffy then goes over and wakes Zoro up by smacking him on the head. And this is when the citizens of the destroyed town show up and they notice that the mayor is unconscious. And they ask a whole bunch of questions, but Luffy only answers the ones that incriminate them. He tells them that they're pirates and that he's the one that knocked out the mayor. And all the other questions that are thrown at him, he just doesn't answer, even though if he had, it would have cleared the whole thing up. But as they're running away and they're running back to their boats, Luffy has this big smile on his face, and he's saying that, the town is really good people because they get so upset over the fact that the mayor got hurt. And so I wonder if he was doing that on purpose to egg them on to see if they would defend him or not. But with what we've seen of Luffy, I don't think he's that forward thinking. And as they're running away from the citizens who were chasing them down for attacking the mayor, Choo Choo, the dog from a couple episodes back, jumps in the way and starts barking and blocking the citizens that are chasing him. And Luffy and Chow Chow have this weird moment where Chow Chow's sitting there barking and Luffy's looking at him like he's listening really intently. And then after he stops barking, Luffy's like, yeah, I get you. I mean, can he talk to dogs? Because, sounds like he knew what Choo Choo was saying, because he smiled pretty appreciatively afterwards. But then they make it to the boats, and the pirates that Nami stole the boats from, and who Zoro saved on the way to the island, pop out of the boat and start threatening the group, obviously without knowing who they are, or else they probably wouldn't have, because when they tap Zoro on the head and tell him to pay attention, and Zoro looks up and he gives him this look. And then we cut back to the mayor asking the town what happened to the kids, our main group. And when he hears that the citizens had drove them off, he gets really mad at them, saying that no one can talk bad about them except for him. And then he chases them down to the wharf. But because we were interrupted, when we get back to our group at the boat, we don't see Buggy's group that was waiting for them. So we really have no idea what happened. Did they run away, or did Zoro kill them still, even though he was all messed up? Guess we'll never know. And as the mayor catches up to them when they're leaving, with tears in his eyes, he thanks them for saving his city. And this episode ends with Nami trying to murder Luffy because Luffy had left one of the bags that she made him carry of Buggy's treasure that she stole at the docks for the town. And going back to my argument earlier, she handed him that treasure. That was his now by her own moral compass. She cannot be mad at him for doing whatever he wanted to with it. And with what he says, the town needed it more, so he gave it to them. So we can kind of see both the point of views here. In her eyes, she lost like 5 million berry. In his eyes, a town gained 5 million berry. And thus the conflict. But ultimately, this episode really ends on a hopeful note. And although Nami specifically stated that she would never become a pirate, Luffy seems to think that they've gained a new navigator. And you know what? That brightens up the future a little bit. And that was episode 8 of the anime adaptation of One Piece. A couple little things that I had noted on here before I sign off. They reuse a couple of gags and scenes in this episode from previous episodes. The gag that I had noted in the last video I had made about 2 of Buggy's crew pretending to be unconscious so they wouldn't get dragged into the fight. They basically do that same thing again. After Buggy gets blasted off, we see those same 2 crew members laying in the rubble and they reuse the same gag. Keep pretending to be knocked out, dumbass. And you know, it's still kind of funny, but it didn't get the same reaction out of me as it did the first time. And an animation that they reused is this cannon fire right here. They use it on Alvida's ship. And I know I'm just showing you the same picture again, but I mean, it's the same thing, so I don't know what you want from me. And I could have sworn I saw it again a couple episodes back, and I searched through my videos for it, but I don't think I commented on it at the time, so I couldn't actually find out which episode it was in. But by my account, this is 3 times they reused the same animation. And I think I'm gonna start keeping a tally on how many times I've seen this. So, canon? 3. Provable? 2. And with that, I want to thank my bloat for continuing to support my channel. We have 11 subscribers now and we're going strong. And I would love to hear any thoughts or opinions that you guys have on One Piece, on any anime in general. It doesn't have to be One Piece. You want to talk about Death Note, Yu Yu Hakusho, whatever. Old stuff, new stuff, you can come here to talk about it. And if you have any suggestions for any other things that you would like me to cover, you know what, I am totally open to that. And any other thoughts or opinions that you guys have on my channel and anything that you guys would like me to do, change, or see, go ahead and leave those down in the comments. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and ring that notification bell to make sure you get notified for more videos like this from me. So I hope to see you in the next one.